there's a limousine there waiting on him. Billy Graham, he walks up to the limousine, he taps on the window, the guy rolls down. Mr. Graham, can I help you? He said, yeah. He said, you know it's late. He said, I'm getting old. He said, there's one thing I always wanted to do. He said, that's drive a limousine. He said, do you think you could make that happen tonight? So, limousine driver, of course, being asked by Billy Graham, said, yeah, you can drive the limousine. Limo driver gets in the back, Billy Graham takes off. Well, he's heading down I-85 about 85 miles an hour, gets pulled over by the cops. Cop walks up to the window. To his amazement, he sees Billy Graham driving a limousine. He goes back to his car, he gets on the radio, and he starts asking his boss, he said, hey, he said, I know I'm kind of new here, but aren't there certain situations where we kind of just turn our head when somebody's breaking the law, if it's somebody important? He said, well, there has been occasion, time to time, where something like that has happened. He said, who are you referring to? Is it the mayor? The police officer said, no, it's not the mayor, it's somebody more important than the mayor. He said, all right, so is it the governor? Patrol officer said, no, sir, it's not the governor either. So superior said, well, who exactly is it then? Patrol officer said, well, I think it's Jesus Christ because Billy Graham is driving the limousine. I didn't have anything to do with anything.
Amen.
Wow.
Got one more for you. You heard of the drug addict that's in the Bible?
What?
Nebuchadnezzar. He was on grass for 7 years. And I'm out. If you didn't laugh at that, you didn't get in your Bible. All right, all the funny business aside. We got a lesson tonight. The lesson is on admit. Admit says in principle 4, openly examine and confess my faults to myself, to God, and to someone that I trust. Step 5 says we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. The A in admit stands for acknowledge the truth. The D stands for disclose it to someone trustworthy. M is mention the exact nature of the wrong. I is invite prayer and accountability. And T is trust God with the outcome. I usually break them acrostics down, but I felt led to do it a little bit differently than that. So, admit is about taking what you have done in your inventory. Taking that inventory and speaking it honestly to someone who is trustworthy. In a sense, that's what the lesson is about. So the lesson before admit is a lot like it. It's confess. Took me a minute to realize there was a difference between them. So in confess, you take those things and you come clean before God. It's about acknowledging your wrongs and accepting God's forgiveness. There comes a point in your life where you have to realize that you are spiritually bankrupt. That you cannot do it on your own.
Amen.
That your ways are not his ways. I had a whole heart transformation, a whole mind transformation when I come to the Lord.
Amen.
You know, he started changing me from the inside out. There were so many things I didn't realize was wrong until I began the process. Well, confessing is that moment when you come before God and you ask for forgiveness for the wrongs that you've done, for all those times where you've lied, you've manipulated, you've cheated, you've stole, all those things that your sinful nature compels you to do. Admit is taking it one step further. Admit is telling the truth out loud. Telling the truth out loud to another person. Admit is sharing specific content about specific behaviors that you have recognized, things that you have identified in your inventory.
Yes.
Things that you've looked deep in that mirror and you realized about yourself that you need to change. Truth be told, everybody else has probably already seen them. You're usually the last one to recognize it. But admit means that you don't have to carry that truth alone anymore. Confess is about honesty and forgiveness before God. Admit is about healing and freedom. And it's about having the support of a person with integrity. That's why God designed the church.
Yeah.
Man, I'm so thankful that in those times where I feel weak, I have a brotherhood around me that can lift me up and encourage me. Just like my brother Tommy. He's been going through it today. And he came here amongst his brothers to be lifted up and encouraged.
Amen.
And Tommy, I pray for you, brother.
Yes, we are.
Man, you tugged on my heartstrings back there. There's those times, man, we get weak. There's those times we need encouragement. And we need to surround ourselves with the correct people. Because I'm going to tell you, you surround yourself with the wrong people in those moments,
Amen.
you back on a sinking ship.
Yes, that's right.
One question seems to come up whenever we talk about admit, especially when you bring up admitting to someone. You think, well, why do I need to tell another person?
Amen.
And if this sounds familiar to you, let me tell you, me and you have had the same thoughts. Because that is exactly what I said 3-4 years ago. Because if I can confess it to God, who is all and knows all, why do I have to admit it to you? Well, James 5:16 gives us that answer, and it says to confess your sins one to another and pray for each other so that you may be healed. It ain't because we just want to know your business. Don't get me wrong, there might be some people that just want to know your business, but by this time you should have that sponsor. You should have that accountability partner. And it should be a man or a woman of God. And it should be somebody of some integrity. And it should be somebody who understands confidentiality. And that's who you tell this stuff to. You don't have to get up there and blast your business out in front of everybody.
That's right.
I do it because I'm a glutton for punishment. I do it. It helps me. It really does. It really does. You'd be surprised how far me getting up here and just pouring my sins and transgressions out has moved me along in my spiritual walk.
Amen, John.
It's not for the weak of heart, though. That brings me to the next point. Why is it so hard to admit my wrongs? Well, it is hard for people to admit their wrongs. It's hard for people to admit their shortcomings. And I think ultimately it shatters that image that I am trying to project out to everybody. And notice, I didn't say it shattered that true reflection of who I am. I said it shatters that image that I'm trying to put out there. See, pride wants you to resist admitting anything that's wrong. Pride wants you to protect that reputation. It wants you to guard that image that you got. That you don't want people thinking that you're weak. You don't want people thinking that you do wrong. Oh, especially as a ministry leader of Celebrate Recovery, you're not supposed to do anything wrong. You're supposed to always say the right things. You're supposed to have the right things in your mind, the right things in your heart at all times. Well, Proverbs 16:18 says that pride goes before the fall. Pride will have you defending a wrong action rather than doing an embarrassing confession. There's also the fear of rejection. Well, that fear of rejection will keep you bound up. Sometimes the enemy will get in your mind, and it'll tell you things like, yeah, that church crowd, they love you right now. But if they really knew who you was, they'd turn their back on you in a heartbeat. I've said this many a times, my first night in here. Miss Rita told me the very first night I met her in my life, when I left, she said, I love you.
Yeah.
Come on back. I love you.
No.
Yeah, you don't even know me. You don't even know me. Don't start this. Truth is,
She means
I
it.
didn't know her.
Yeah, that's it.
And she means it.
I didn't know Rita. You try to hide your wrongdoings as an act of self-preservation. Because if I stand up here and let you know that I have all kind of insecurities that race through my head, I feel like I'm not the man that I'm supposed to be. That there's things in my household that I don't quite have under control.
My
Well, who am I to get up here and speak
house.
about anything?
Blessing.
Who am I to get up here and proclaim any of God's words? Then you got the fear of consequences. The admission of the truth may bring consequences to your life. Many things that you probably ain't prepared to deal with. I was on the run from the law for about 5 years. During that 5 years, I lived with a relative of mine, him and his wife. I ended up having an affair with his wife. He accused me of it. I denied it. We fell apart. Now this was my best friend, my relative. We fell apart, drifted away. He knew what was going on. I wouldn't admit it. For years I carried that guilt. For years I carried that shame. A guy that was harboring me brought me in his house, fed me, give me a place to sleep, and I betrayed him like that. A couple years ago, his dad died. My uncle, I had to go to the funeral. For about 3 days, I was so wrought with guilt and anxiety. What am I going to do when I go into this funeral home and I have to see him? I don't know what he's going to do. Is he going to hit me? Is he going to punch me? Is he going to call me out? I walked in there and I said, man, I need to talk to you outside. I told him I was sorry. I told him that he didn't have to forgive me, but I wanted him to know that I was sorry. He hugged me. He said, it's all right. He said, it's all good. Don't worry about it. I had a weight come off of me that I didn't know that I was carrying. Not only was I afraid of admitting the wrong that I did, but I was also afraid of the consequences. Proverbs 28:13 says, he that covers his sins shall not prosper, and whoever confesses and forsakes them shall obtain mercy. Covering up that sin ate me up for years. It drove a wedge between me and my family. It was a constant source of anxiety, shame, and guilt. In the Garden of Eden, Adam sinned. You know what he said when God asked him about it? He said, it was that woman. What did Eve say? It was that snake. Admitting our wrongs is not our human default. Owning those times where we mess up, those times that we've fallen short, it's not our strong suit. Admitting that you're wrong often feels like surrendering control. It means that as long as you can keep that secret hidden, you feel like you're in control. Man, what a deception. Revealing that secret is the step that leads you towards that path of healing. And I think it's important to note that in step 5, the phrase exact nature exists. Exact nature. That means when I come to you and confess about the way that I treated my ex-wife, I'm not just going to say that I treated her bad. I'm going to say that I cheated on her. I'm going to say that I abused her physically, mentally. You know, I want to own accountability for everything that I did in that relationship, because that's the only way that I'm going to get any healing. That's the way that I'm going to get forgiveness. I can point out all kinds of things that she did wrong, but that's on her. I want to own the things that I did wrong. Got time for one more story. I actually told this one last year. So maybe you don't remember it. Maybe you wasn't here. I got arrested a few years. Man, it's been 20 years now. I got arrested once. Did a pretty major crime. Went and stole a bunch of stuff, and anyway, it was a crime that was going to send me to prison if I was convicted of it. Well, word got out, because you know people talk, thinking they're your friends or whatnot, but that's the life. That's the life you live in when you choose that life. So, police came, got me, locked me up. I sit in there for about 3 days. A detective, she came, she wanted to talk to me. She pulled me into the confession room. She laid out the whole plan. Let me tell you, she knew exactly what happened. She said, I'm gonna give you the opportunity to go ahead and confess. She said, this is the best chance you got. This is gonna make everything easier on you in the long run. Of course, me, hard-headed, thinking I'm smart, everybody else in the room, I'm not confessing nothing. I don't know what you're talking about. She looked at me and she said, well, just so you know, She said, the guy you committed the crime with is in here also. She said, I'm taking you back to your cell and I'm bringing him in here and I'm going to offer him the same deal. She said, you better hope he's as loyal to you as you are to him. Never forgot that. I'll tell you, I wasn't no praying man, but when I got back to that cell, I was doing some praying. Well, he ended up keeping his mouth shut. About 6-8 months later, they never would give me a court date because they didn't have no evidence because everything was circumstantial, nobody confessed. So, fast forward about 4 years ago,
Maybe 3.
I go to a Christian, what do you call them?
Leadership.
Retreat, yes.
Yeah.
Retreat, Christian retreat, right? So I'm sitting at this table, they set us there, we got 5 or 6 people all sitting around the table. We go around and introduce ourselves, who we are. It gets around to this big old guy. He said, man, my name's Terry. He said, I am the chief of police for Cartersville Police Department. He said, I've been the chief for about 32 years now. I thought, Now, at this time, I know I'm saved. I'm a child of God. I know I'm going to heaven. Now, the Lord has forgiven me, but I do not know how the city of Cartersville feels. So I tried to keep quiet for about 3 days. On that 3rd day, I had to say, hey, Terry, a few years back, man, I robbed this manufacturing place up there. I said, y'all put me in jail. I said, your detective knew the whole story. I said, but I didn't never confess. I just wanted you to know that she was right. He said, well, brother, just so you know, he said, you're not the only one that robbed that place. He said, the Lord has forgiven you. He said, look what you're doing. He said, the city of Cartersville has forgiven you also. Y'all want to come up here and get a song?